2012. Internet culture was the Wild West, Windows 8 was released, and some people were convinced the world would be ending in December.
Your message said the count doubled after the last solar eruptions.
That was last week.
Good times. Great times, actually. I remember being a sophomore in high school and talking video games with my friends on the daily. One game that a few of my friends were incredibly excited for was Dishonored, set to be released in early October. Back then, I got most of my gaming information from one source, Game Informer, and by God had they hyped this game up. I don't even think they had gameplay screenshots or anything. It was all concept art and information, but holy crap did it look cool as hell. Also, rest in peace, Game Informer. You were one of the greats. There was stealth, combat, fancy gadgets, and magic powers to utilize throughout the giant sandboxes that each level was held in. The setting was dark and mysterious, taking place in a technologically advanced society that's seemingly still in a Victorian time period. Each level was huge, and it encouraged you to play how you liked it, and it all sounds so cool, with secrets to find, and high replay value, and I never played it. I'm not sure what was wrong with my 15-year-old brain, probably too focused on a girl that didn't like me back, but for whatever reason, I never picked it up, despite how cool it sounded. I think at that point I was still tearing my hair out trying to get The Witcher 1 to run on my laptop. It wasn't until the first quarter of 2023 that I finally added it to my Steam library and decided to give it a go. And holy shit, did I not know what I was missing. This game's good. This game's real good. Real quick though, before we get into it, if you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. It genuinely means so much to me when you do, so thanks. This game, like several others, is considered an immersive simulator, or ImSim for short.
What the hell is even that?
If you've never heard of the genre, congratulations! You're about to learn about one of the most debated genre types in all of video games. People write dissertations on what constitutes an immersive sim, presumably because their parents didn't love them enough to tuck them into bed at night. Per Wikipedia, it's a video game genre that emphasizes player choice. Its core defining trait is the use of simulated systems that respond to a variety of player actions which, combined with a comparatively broad array of player abilities, allow the game to support varied and creative solutions to problems, as well as emergent gameplay beyond what has been explicitly designed by the developer. Simple, right? If that wasn't simple enough for you, just know that it's still a hotly debated topic online as to what constitutes an immersive sim, with many people on multiple sides of the argument. Just look at some of these graphics and charts people have made. There's not even a consensus on what the official definition can apply to. It hurts my head, and I don't want to bore you, so let's settle on something simple. Game throws you into a level with your abilities and tools, gives you an objective, and says get there. Unga bunga. Where you choose to go and how you choose to do it are completely up to you. Why is this so important to know about Dishonored? Well, if you somehow haven't figured it out by now, Dishonored is an immersive sim. No debate about it. Designed in both setting and mechanics to be a spiritual successor to the two Thief games, this game had a lot of history and gameplay to build itself off of. What's that you say? They made two Thief games after the Metal Age? Don't be silly. Dishonored isn't in the same series.
What?
Dishonored was made by the absolute titan of immersive sim game developers, Arcane Studios. If you've heard of immersive sims before, you've likely heard of or played at least one of their games. They practically pioneered the genre, or at least brought the most attention to it in recent years. It all started with a game called Arx Fatalis, followed by Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. While Arx has been showing its age for a while now, Dark Messiah is still hailed as one of the greats in the genre. Arx Fatalis is generally considered good as well, but it can be a pain to get running, and some of the systems are notoriously broken. After that, they made Karma Star? An iOS exclusive game made in 2009, developed for iPhones and iPod Touch. Never played it. Never even heard of it before I started doing research for this video, but this Redditor describes it as so. It was apparently good, but mobile games don't have nearly the reputation that mainline console/PC releases boast, even if they are quote-unquote good. Thankfully, this game wasn't Candy Crush, and the studio decided that they could let it go in favor of more robust titles. After 2.5 years of development, their next game was the game of the hour, Dishonored, which released in 2012 for Xbox 360, PS3, and Windows. Arguably their greatest game yet, it was met with immediate praise when it was shown in that year's E3, receiving 4 different nominations for various awards. You know, back before E3 became the joke it was, as it was laughed into irrelevance and cancelled unceremoniously. This was the good old days, when it meant something to be praised so highly at the Electronic Entertainment Expo. But that was the before time.
Everybody gather round. We're gonna tell the story of the before time again.
The praise didn't stop there, and critics and players loved nearly everything the game had to offer. It won a couple awards and landed itself on multiple greatest ever lists, and the love and enjoyment hasn't waned with time. Who would have thought that a game designed to be fun doesn't magically lose its enjoyability just because a few years have passed? What makes this game truly fun and highly replayable is present largely thanks to the development team who wanted the game to be fun to control and for the player character to be quote-unquote badass. I would argue that they were largely successful in this, even if you opt for stealth and non-lethal approaches. Especially if you manage to play the game unseen, truly becoming something to be feared. What's that? A game developer that understands what makes games fun and what people want to play? Surely you jest.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
The game's art direction is really solid and consistent throughout, with locations and levels that exist realistically into the strange techno-Victorian age that the game takes place in. I'm not sure which I like more honestly, the art or the gameplay. The outskirts are run down while the rich areas of town are full of grandiose buildings and architecture. Technology exists, but not in an overwhelming capacity and is mainly utilized by the guards and the aristocrats. You'll primarily see it utilized in the form of alarms and electric barriers, but there are various pieces of tech and industry you'll see as you move throughout the city of Dunwall. Though the game is over a decade old, the graphics are still really solid with really crisp textures. Character models are indicative of the time Dishonored came out, but I'd argue that they're more stylized than attempting to imitate reality. This is probably best emphasized with how just utterly strange the dogs look. Strange, but I like it. It's memorable. Like most stealth games, this game has a detection meter telling you how aware of your presence the guards are. There are 3 levels ranging from barely noticed to full-on aware of where you are. Each level is indicated by an escalating piece of the meter becoming highlighted above the guards' heads, plus a musical sting to really hammer home that you're probably fucking up. Combat-wise, you're armed with a crossbow, pistol, blade, and a few other tools to dispatch enemies. The crossbow has a few different types of ammo you can utilize, including non-lethal sleep darts. In a non-lethal playthrough, you'll be using these a lot, as unsurprisingly, shooting a guard with a gun or sticking a sword in their neck kills them. Run out of darts and you'll be choking out any guards that get in your way. Personally, this was my primary method of knocking people out. Luckily, blowing up the invasive mollusks called river crusts don't count as kills, so chuck as many grenades at them as you want. Part of Corvo's equipment is a heart that points you in the direction of runes, which are used to upgrade health and unlock spells, and bone charms, which can be equipped to provide a variety of benefits. The spells and abilities you can unlock are pretty lethal as well, but there are a few that are more utility in nature. Blink, which lets you teleport across the map instantly, is the one you'll more than likely use the most, but possessing critters around the map is pretty useful too. Dark Vision acts like the assassin vision in Hitman and lets you see items and enemies through walls. Whirlwind lets you hurl a gust of wind strong enough to knock back and kill enemies, as well as blow open doors and boards. Summon Rats lets you summon a group of rats to distract and devour enemies like the little dinosaurs at the beginning of Jurassic Park 2.
Are you looking at this? I'm afraid there isn't enough to go around.
This scene absolutely traumatized me as a kid. I was a sensitive soul, don't laugh. All of these require mana to use, so they're not spam to win buttons. This forces you to make every use of a spell count, as you can get caught with your pants down pretty easily if you're not careful. That's not a good thing in this scenario, you fucking Combining the elements of an immersive sim into an intriguing world with a revenge-focused main storyline, Dishonored really does excel in just about everything it sets out to do. Every system at your disposal blends and meshes seamlessly with the other systems available, and no 2 playthroughs will ever be the same, with the only limits on what you can do outside of what the game presents to you is your own creativity. Like I said before, this game encourages you to play how you want, and I mean it. Slaughter your way through the prologue? Tutorials come up and tell you the benefits of stealth and non-lethal takedowns. Haven't killed a soul? Maybe the tutorial on a drop assassination or rewiring technology to be lethal to guards will change your mind. Side missions interest you? Follow leads you get from environmental storytelling or dialogue. Shameless plug for my Skyrim environmental storytelling video. Check it out after this one. Side missions bore you and you just want to enact justice on the mission's main target? Ignore them and drop your foes with focused determination. Obviously, you'll get more out of the game if you follow the side missions, but no one's forcing you, and you won't be missing out on any crucial story elements if you don't. I will judge you, however. You will miss out on some interesting characters, though. Speaking of characters, there are some big-name actors that voice some of the characters. I agree with the assertion that I'll usually prefer a trained voice actor to a regular old face actor, but this game does the work to make the characters feel real to the point that you don't just hear the actors when their characters speak. Not talking spoilers yet, so I'll only give you the basics and set up to the story. You play as Corvo Attano, the royal protector for Jessamine Caldwin, the Empress of the Empire of the Isles. After returning to Dunwall, the capital of the Empire, Corvo meets with the Empress and her daughter, and it's revealed that he's been on an expedition to the other major cities of the Empire to see how they're dealing with the Rat Plague, a disease that's befallen Dunwall. Not only do the other cities not have any help to give, it doesn't seem like they're being affected by the plague at all.
I hoped that one of the other cities had dealt with this before, knew of some cure. This news is very bad. We're at the breaking point.
Before Corvo can stab the Empress with the raging erection he'd been saving since he left, a group of masked assassins appear and cuck him with their own stiff object. The Empress is assassinated, and her daughter Emily is kidnapped.
No! Get away from her! Corvo! Help me! Get away!
Guards and government officials rush in to see Corvo standing over the dead Empress and arrest him for the crime, giving us the title break. Truly, this is the Dishonored of all time. The world of Dishonored really feels like a world-building experiment that became its own game. So many little tiny details meshing together to make the world feel old and real. Technology and electricity is possible due to the use of whale oil, which is exactly what it sounds like. Therefore, whaling is a major industry in the Empire, and you can pass whaling ships and see various iconography that shows just how important it is for society to function. But these whales aren't like whales in our world. These are magic whales. And they're creepy as fuck. For a political story that takes place entirely in one city, they really went above and beyond to flesh out the world from the micro level to the macro. I can honestly say that while the music isn't the most memorable, it's subtle and serves to be more atmospheric than bombastic. Except for the end credits song, that one's a banger. Other than that, the sound effects are all really impactful and effective. The sound of an alerted guard isn't just a simple noise, but a whole chord of eerie music that fills you with progressively more dread until you're outright spotted. Maybe a hot take here, but I think it's almost as effective as the Metal Gear Solid alert sound. Each spell has a particular sound effect, many in the form of creepy, ethereal whispering. The sound you make while blinking is something you're going to be hearing a lot, and it's done exceptionally well. There's two different sounds it makes, one while preparing to blink and the other while it's being executed.
Then music, a kind of funky sound. That's what's
Each tool has its own sound effect, making them each feel more distinguishable than they already are. The voice acting is all really stellar too. A little more than occasionally though, the voice lines for guards and background characters get a little grating, and there's no real flow to them, and they repeat often. It's not enough to break the immersion, but after what happened last night, a lot of guards are certain they'll be getting their own squad, and none of them ever have anything to smoke or drink.
Think you'll get your own squad after what happened last night? Indeed, I believe so.
Corvo is a silent protagonist, but there are dialogue choices you can make, so he's not a complete mute. Like most other silent protagonists, the developers wanted him to be a blank slate, allowing the players to put themselves into the character. How they think and behave is how Corvo thinks and behaves. I'm usually somewhat hit or miss with silent characters like this. Sometimes it's a bit ridiculous that the character wouldn't say anything in the scenarios they find themselves in, but here I think it works pretty well. It doesn't come across as unrealistic, just that Corvo is a man of few words, who would prefer his actions to speak for him over his voice. Now it's finally time to get into the story itself, so head on over to this timestamp if you want to skip the spoilers. There's more at the end to hear, so don't worry. You won't hurt my feelings, just my analytics. Thank God they're gone. To start things off, I'd like to do my due diligence and mention my bias. I greatly prefer the non-lethal option in basically any game that presents it to me. I think it presents a more interesting challenge, and it feels better narratively for the stealthy person to keep their hands clean. I like that Dishonored has different narrative outcomes based on how you play. I love Metal Gear Solid, but a no-kill run being awarded with a 0 on a stat screen at the end of the game is underwhelming. Get wrecked, Kojima. In terms of narrative, I'll mainly be discussing the non-lethal options for each target, but just know that there are a variety of ways to eliminate each target using lethal means. Discussing the non-lethal, I think, will give a better narrative flow for this part of the video, as the story is so open to different variations depending on player action. I will mention elements of a high chaos playthrough when necessary, and I'll discuss the high chaos ending as well. If a game gives you a non-lethal option to play the game, it is the better option. No amount of gamer rage will make me change this opinion, as it is objectively the correct one. Feel free to try and prove me wrong in the comments, I will actively argue with you. Anyway, on to the story. 6 months have passed since the assassination of the Empress, and Corvo has been tortured in prison basically the whole time. It's revealed that the assassination was a plot by High Overseer Campbell and Acting Lord Regent Hiram Burrows. It just so happened that Corvo was a convenient scapegoat for them. He's due to be executed the next day and is awaiting his fate in prison. A guard brings over a tray of food, telling Corvo that it comes from a friend. Underneath a loaf of bread is the key to the cell and a note telling Corvo to locate a bomb and use it to blow open a door and make his way out of the prison through the sewers. It is here that Corvo swears to take his vengeance by eating every morsel of food he can find in the starving city beyond the prison.
The rats came a half a year before the Empress died.
After procuring a blade and sneaking or fighting your way through the prison, finding the bomb in a safe and using it to escape, Corvo finds a case in the sewers containing a retractable blade and a crossbow. Fun fact, this is one of the first parts in the game that shows you the differences in narrative that can occur based on how you play. If you slaughtered your way through, the guards in the prison will comment on how many people Corvo killed on his way out.
How many people did he kill on his way out of the prison? I guess if you'll kill the Empress, you don't care about a few guards.
Shut up. Look at this stuff. Somebody's been down here.
If you didn't kill anyone, they'll talk more about your escape.
He used some kind of explosive to blast his way out. That doesn't happen by accident.
You think he had help? Who'd know how to do that?
Bottle Street gang, maybe. Watch for booby traps. Could be some down here by the look of it.
Good.
After traversing some guard patrols, Corvo meets Samuel, a boatman, who tells him he'll take him to safety. Having no other options, Corvo trusts him and is taken by boat to an old bar in an abandoned section of town called the Hound Pits Pub. There, a group of revolutionaries aware of the plot against the Empress have gathered, intent on using Corvo as their weapon against the corruption. The conspirators are headed up by Admiral Farley Havelock and Trevor Pendleton, a nobleman. The third leader is a man named Teague Martin, but he's a bit predisposed when you arrive. After introductions and the revelation of their plan to overthrow the Lord Regent and instate Emily to the throne of the Empire, Corvo is directed to meet Piero Joplin, an inventor and scientist. He sells you ammo and equipment, but also acts as your fence, selling anything and everything that you pilfer as you skulk your way through the city. He's also the inventor of the plague remedy you find that restores your mana. When you meet him, he gives you the iconic mask that allows for anonymity and has a magnifying function. He's nice, but odd. He may be a peeping Tom and fully willing to conduct experiments on human subjects, but I don't know, there's just something charming about him. Still wouldn't want to spend too much time alone with him. During his well-deserved rest, Corvo wakes to find himself in the Void, a strange dimension that is described as the beginning and end of all things. Here, he is greeted by the Outsider, an embodiment of the Void, and figure of worship for various cults. He has taken an interest in Corvo and his plight and brands him with his mark, bestowing upon him magical abilities. The Outsider also gives Corvo a heart of a living thing that functions as a tracker for upgrade runes, which are made by worshippers of the Outsider, and bone charms. Gee, thanks, I guess. It also whispers sweet nothings in your ear that differ based on location.
There is a strong drink made here. I tried it once. Distilled from river crusts by the taste of it.
What most people
This
don't
was
remember
once the
is
house of a
the
high
rats came a
overseer.
half a year before
Lydia
the
Warren
Empress
took
died.
special care to desecrate each and every room. What have you done to me?
It's heavily hinted that this is the heart of the recently deceased Empress, based on some of the things she says and the fact that they share a voice actor. The next morning, Corvo awakens to find bone charms scattered about his room. After collecting them, he heads down to the bar to meet with Havelock and Pendleton, and they task you with your first assassination, High Overseer Thaddeus Campbell. High Overseer is both a political and religious position, being the head of the Isle's main religion, the Abbey of the Everyman. Before you embark on your mission of infiltration and assassination, a member of the Loyalist conspiracy named Callista asks you to save her uncle, a member of the City Watch, that Campbell intends to poison. There's tensions between the Abbey and the City Watch, and Campbell wants to nip these issues in the bud. I did mention the story is political, didn't I? Don't worry, it's Game of Thrones or Deep Space Nine style political, not whatever the fuck some games are trying to be these days. Samuel drops Corvo off on a small beach, giving him a heads up on both the local gang, the Bottle Street Gang, and a local eccentric named Granny Rags. Both are leads to potential side quests in the area and could be done to affect later narrative elements. Granny Rags is a strange old woman being harassed by the Bottle Street Gang, who are coming after her for protection money. After taking out the gangsters, she'll ask you to poison their tonic distillery. And doing so nets you 2 runes from the old woman, which is definitely a sign that this lady isn't what she appears. This level also features a couple apartments that you can sneak into and rob. And after you rob them of all their valuables, you can eat all their food too. After passing through the defenses, Corvo comes across Martin, the third leader of the conspiracy. You free him, and he returns to the Hound Pits to join the others. Sneaking his way into the High Overseer's office building, Corvo overhears a conversation about the Heretic's brand, a ritual branding of one's face that labels them an outcast to be shunned by society. Making his way up to Campbell's office, you can find the poison wine he intends to use to kill Callista's uncle. You can dump out the wine, poison both, or switch the glasses. If you dispose of the poison, Campbell will make his way to his personal chambers on the lower floor, where he intends to kill Callista's uncle. Knocking out the both of them to ensure you aren't seen, you can then put Campbell in the chair where the brand is applied and mark his face as a heretic. After handling him, Corvo makes his escape with Samuel after taking a back exit out. This action right here perfectly displays why I think the non-lethal methods are preferable. Death is fast and over much too quickly. Non-lethal methods like this force these evil crooks to live with the consequences of their actions for the remainder of their miserable days, fallen far from the grace they once had. By the way, as an aside, I totally would have gotten the Ghost achievement for this game had I not been somehow spotted and somehow killed someone during this level. It took me forever and I didn't want to start all over again. Every other level I completed non-lethally and just about unseen in all of them as well. Oh well, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Definitely not still salty about it. Anyway, during the course of the mission, Corvo learned that Emily was being held by Lord Pendleton's older brothers in a brothel called the Golden Cat. That, doesn't sound good. This does, however, offer the chance to kill two birds with one stone. Pun intended. The creepy brothers here are the deciding votes in Parliament, allowing the Lord Regent to hold on to legitimacy. Eliminating them would free up their votes to the younger Pendleton, taking away important credibility from Burroughs. So Corvo is sent to infiltrate the brothel, save Emily, and eliminate the brothers. This time, the leader of the Bottle Street gang, Slackjaw, has a proposition for you. Give him the code to the local art dealer's safe, and he'll make sure that the Pendleton brothers are taken care of without killing them. As you leave his hideout, a group of Weepers they had quarantined escape, and you gotta contend with them. Weepers are people in the final stages of the rat plague who are violently delirious and bleeding from the eyes. They're like this because of Corvo's poisoning of the elixir still, so if you don't do that, there won't be any Weepers here. These people are essentially walking corpses, and Corvo is to blame for that. The stat screen says this doesn't count, so he's not a murderer as far as I'm concerned. The Golden Cat itself is an opulent and gilded building reserved for the elites to fulfill their sick fantasies. One sick fantasy in question is of the art dealer, Bunting. Motherfucker likes to be shocked with a blindfold on. Good thing science has progressed to the point to allow this guy to shock him good. Shock him past his safe word. Scare him. Fork over the combination, you kinky bastard. There are actually some good setups for assassination here.
They say the other lords barricaded him in to save themselves. The screams lasted hours. He begged and called them by name, but they let him die.
What's this that noise?
Oh no. No.
Shame we're doing non-lethal. Aight, cool. Emily is being held in a room upstairs, but she knows of a back exit out an alley after multiple escape attempts. Corvo leads her to the exit, and she goes to find Samuel. If you're going the pacifist run, now all you gotta do is take the combination to Slackjaw, and he'll take care of the brothers. You're also completely free to rob the safe before or after you do so. Corvo, Samuel, and Emily head back to the Hound Pits, where Callista takes on the role of Emily's mentor, and they set her up in the nearby tower with a room to herself. The conspiracy discovers that the Lord Regent's mistress is a wealthy woman who is financing him with stacks on stacks so he can more easily hold power. No one knows who it is, but the royal physician Anton Sokolov once painted her. So Corvo's next target is Sokolov, and he'll need to be taken alive. He's holed up in his safe house with a heavy regiment of guards. By now, the city has caught on to the fact that there's a masked vigilante that's been taking out high-ranking officials, and the paranoia of those with something to hide has skyrocketed. You gotta take out the lights on the nearby bridge to make a safe escape. Other than that, the mission is as simple as infiltrating and knocking out Sokolov. He's in the greenhouse on the roof with the human test subject he's been keeping prisoner and studying the effects of the plague. After you capture him, you take him back to the Hound Pits where he's locked in a cell. After convincing him through fear or bribery to reveal the identity of Burroughs' mistress, he'll inform Corvo and Havelock that he only painted the portrait of her backside as she refused to face him during the process to hide her identity. All he knows is that she's one of the three Boyle sisters, members of a ridiculously wealthy family in Dunwall. They're having a party that night, and it's up to Corvo to infiltrate and determine which sister is the mistress and take her out. Luckily, it's a masquerade ball, so Corvo will fit right in with his mask on. This level does a good job showing the difference between the aristocracy and the poor in Dunwall. While the destitute hide in their homes until they hack their lungs out and cry blood, life goes on for the rich. But biological particles are money blind, and there are a few hints that some of the people here are sick with the plague. This is probably my favorite mission in the whole game, as I love the aspect of hiding in plain sight and moving around the party with ulterior motives. After procuring an invitation, Corvo is able to move about the ground floor of the mansion with ease. The masks may give Corvo an advantage on stealth, but it's a hindrance to actually discovering which sister is which. They're each wearing different colors and give very few hints as to which sister is which, since they're making it a guessing game for the party. There's multiple things Corvo can do to determine the identity of each sister, but using a guide or knowledge from a previous playthrough won't work here, as the correct target and the colors the sisters wear all vary from run to run. One of the party guests is a freak in a rat mask called Lord Brisby. He somehow knows who Corvo is and proclaims that he is in love with the Lady Boyle you're after. All he asks is that you deliver to him and he'll take her far away to a place she'll never be seen again. Yeah, honestly, death might be the better option for her at this point, Jesus. Anyway, this is the non-lethal option for this level, and he's waiting in the cellar below in a boat to whisk her away to a happy magical land. There are ways to lure the sister down to the basement, but I failed in doing this. I was really trying to go unseen in every level, so I had to do it the hard way. I knocked her out in a room where we were alone, and carefully crept through the empty halls until I made it to the foyer. Somehow, I managed to blink in the perfect direction so that no one saw me, and from there it was easy to skulk about the forbidden second floor, down a stairwell, and into the cellar below. After delivering the, goods, I walked out of the party as casually as I walked in. And by that, I mean through an open drain. Now it's finally time to take out the Lord Regent. And if you thought Sokolov was paranoid, this dude makes him look like a bank robber with comically large bags full of money with dollar signs on them and a room full of police officers. Take pleasure in the fact that all his fears stem from you, either because you're a shadow in the night or because you're a maniac intent on butchering everyone that gets in his way. Corvo now returns to the Tower of Dunwall, the place he was imprisoned and tortured. Getting past the guards and watchtowers here is gonna be hard. These bastards on stilt have fucking eagle vision. There's a few ways in, but if you sneak your way left, there's a disgruntled employee working on the pump station. He knows why you're there and tells Corvo to lower a nearby sluice and can enter in through there. I possessed a fish to do it. God, I love this game. Hopefully telling me all this will prevent this dude from going postal. Putting aside the bad taste reference that's older than me, seriously go look it up if you've never heard the origin of the phrase going postal, you push past all the shit and debris and explode out of the fish's withering corpse into the guard's toilet. The Lord Regent is hiding somewhere in his tower, and you can hear him berating the guards at various points, further emphasizing how paranoid he's become. Ah, the burdens of power. In the safe in his room is the recording that will damn him. This is our route to the non-lethal option. You know those announcements you've been hearing the whole game over the city's intercom system? Come on, sure you do. I've mentioned them like 1,000 times by now. Well, the broadcast tower is also in the Tower of Dunwall. Creeping your way up the stairs, you scare the shit out of the announcer, who begs you not to kill him. The worker also tells you about the Lord Regent's propensity for recording every word that slops out of his bald skull. Convenient. Placing the recording in the slot will play the Lord Regent's diabolical plan through every speaker in the city, and my god, is it fitting of a comic book villain monologuing out his evil, nefarious plan.
If I explain, then you will see I am not at fault. My poverty eradication plan was meant to bring prosperity to the city, to rid us of those who waste their days in filth and drink, without homes or occupations other than to beg for the coin for which the rest of us toil. And it was a simple plan. Bring disease-bearing rats from the peninsula and dies. Let them care for us. The plan worked perfectly. Yes, sir. At first. But the rats, it was as if they sought to undo me. They hid from the catchers and bred at sickening rate. Soon it didn't matter. Rich, poor, all were falling sick.
So this explains one of the notes you can find in one of the levels, stating that the rats in the port had the newest generation of the plague, indicating it wasn't shipped in accidentally from sailors coming into port. On the way out, a group of guards confronts him and arrests him for his actions. Looks like his money's run dry after his mistress disappeared.
Beg for the coin for which the rest of us toiled, and it was a simple plan.
It's over, Hyro.
Bring the
Your head will
disease-bearing
roll for what
rats
you've
from the
done.
pen.
Still non-lethal, still non-lethal. See, look at the stat screen. You can also find the torturer that, tortured Corvo in the basement. He's beating the shit out of a corpse like it makes up for all the times his father did the same to him. There's also a shrine to the Outsider here. There's been a few you can find in different levels, and once you grab the rune on them, the Outsider will come out and comment on what Corvo has been doing so far on the level. This one is my favorite.
Here you are, Corvo, within the high walls of your enemy's stronghold. You're an unstoppable force, it seems, but also unpredictable. The Lord Regent lives, despite all he's done, and that is most surprising. The last year must have been agony for such a tightly wound man, watching as the plague spiraled out of control. As people on the streets went mad and died bleeding from the eyes, knowing that it was all his fault. As you hunted down his people one by one, and finally came for him, he must have realized that all his planning was for nothing, and that must have been exquisitely terrifying. But in the end, you chose the more measured response. What will that mean in the days to come, I wonder? I've lived a long, long time, and these are the moments I wait for.
Time to bounce!
Big changes. Makes me uneasy, to tell the truth. A small fry like me always gets the worst of it. But maybe it's going to be different now. The Lord Regent is gone. The Abbey has a new High Overseer. I'm guessing our work is almost done. The others are in the bar. No doubt waiting to raise a glass in your name. Me, I think I'll just linger out here if you don't mind. Reflect on things while we have a moment. Congratulations, Corvo.
Well, damn. I sure hope nothing bad happens. See, everyone's celebrating.
To Corvo, the man who served to change the course of history.
To Emily Coleman, and the new dawn rising for Dunwall and the Empire. I really must get a wife. Still a few boils left, I suppose. Now, which was the prudish one?
Fuck.
Samuel, you move like you've been drinking. Did the poison work its magic? Is he dead?
It better have worked. It cost me a month's profit.
Yes, sir. I believe Corvo has breathed his last. Just as you wanted.
You've done a fine job, then.
Remember, we need the body. If we come forward with the corpse of the man who murdered the Empress, we'll be greeted as heroes.
Yes, it'll grant us legitimacy. We'll be the men who rescued Emily and brought down the Lord Regent and his assassin. You'll see to the body, won't you, Samuel?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry something terrible, Corvo, but I only gave you half the poison. They were watching me and it was all I could think to do. I think you're strong enough to survive that. I'll put you on a raft and then I've got to ship out myself before they find out I've gone against their wishes. Snakes. They'll want to do the same to me as soon as I've outlived my uses. Hopefully you'll wake up and find your way out of this cursed city.
Well, who could have seen a betrayal by the people in control of the conspiracy of betrayal now that they realize they have all the power? Thank God for Samuel, he's a saint. Could have held it against Corvo for calling him an old man when they first met, but nah, he's good people. Corvo wakes up in the flooded district, an area of the city overrun by plague and, a flood. The assassins that took out the Empress are headquartered here, and they're headed by a man named Dowd. They're all blessed by the Outsider as well, and Dowd's pretty pissed to see Corvo.
But I don't know you, who you are, and who you fight for. You're a mystery, and I can't allow that.
Fuck! Corvo is thrown into a pit to hold him, but he immediately breaks out. These guys are supposed to be a threat? Well, old Corvo's gotta make it back to the Hound Pits. Only way out is through a gate that Dowd has the key to. Gotta go get it. But first, a pit stop to get our stuff. After climbing chains and scaling old walkways, we finally make it to the bottom of the pit that Dowd threw our stuff in. Here, we can see the ex-High Overseer Campbell wandering around as a mad weeper. Alright, now we can move around a bit better. Really just needed those sleep darts and crossbow. We aren't killing anyone here. Does that count? Shit, I'm not risking it.
Good riddance to you, sir. So many schemes you had, and so many contracts. How many people did I kill for you? None like the last. None like her. I'd give back all the coin if I could. No one should have to kill an empress.
Too little, too late, evildoer. Nah, JK. Corvo can take the key from him without ever alerting him to his presence. To send a message. I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. I could kill you, but I won't stoop to your level. Be afraid. The exit from the flooded district doesn't take you directly to the Hound Pits. Instead, it takes you to the destitute and quarantined part of the city. The Lord Regent may be gone, but his plans are still being enacted. Whereas the Empress started the story by saying the people are her people and they wouldn't be rounding them up if they were sick, there's now pits full of corpses that are continuously being filled with fresh bodies. Suddenly, the guards throwing bodies onto barges in the first level makes sense. There are people here that are still alive, but hiding in fear because they know that if they're seen trying to escape, they'll be gunned down like rats. The Lord Regent is a short-sighted man. The rat plague spread out of his control. He didn't think anything would happen after framing Corvo for his conspiracy, and now, his plan to contain the plague is to ship the bodies from other parts of the city and pile them into pits. It's not working. Remember, when caught between a rock and a hard place, don't fill a pit full of plague victim corpses in the center of town instead of trying to rectify the problem you caused in the first place. Moving through this area of the city, Corvo finally makes it to the Hound Pits, and oh boy, shit ain't going well there. If you thought Havelock, Martin, and Pendleton would stop with Corvo, you were dead wrong. Most everyone else who has been aiding in the conspiracy this whole time has been executed. Callista is alive, but only in low chaos, and Sokolov and Piero have managed to hole up in the garage. The place is swarming with guards, and Emily is nowhere to be seen. In Corvo's room, there's a note and a drawing left by Emily indicating that she's been taken to a lighthouse outside of town on King Sparrow Island. Also, this isn't the same picture, but this picture Emily drew earlier in the game directly says that Corvo is Emily's father. Honestly, there's not much to that, which is probably why I'm telling you now and not earlier when you actually find the picture. Filled with fatherly rage, Corvo goes to the garage and is informed by Piero and Sokolov that they have devised a machine that would take out all of their enemies in a local radius, and it's located on the roof. After filling a container with whale oil to power it, Corvo has the option to put them to sleep or to fry them Dr. Manhattan style.
Do it!
We'll just let them take a little nap. After this, Corvo fires a flare, alerting Samuel to retrieve the survivors. After taking everyone else to safety, he drops Corvo off at the lighthouse. It's revenge time. Non-lethally, of course. I'm not about to sully my hands now. Except for that one dude I accidentally killed, but I really don't think that should count because it wasn't anything I directed. When Corvo finally makes it into the lighthouse, he can hear Havelock monologuing about his place of power and who he is and blah, blah, blah. This guy's good at rambling. I wonder how Pendleton and Martin feel about this. Oh, shit! Damn, he's really going for the corrupt leader speedrun world record. Have fun in prison for the rest of your life, you miserable washed-up bastard. But what about Emily?
Corvo! I knew you'd come. Is it going to be okay now? Will I be Empress?
Since we haven't killed anyone,
except that one motherfucker,
we've beaten the game on low chaos. Emily is crowned Empress and is one of the best leaders the Empire of the Isles has ever seen, due in no small part to the guidance of Corvo. The rat plague is cured by the combined efforts of Piero and Sokolov, and our old pal Corvo lives a long and happy life. When his life is finally over, he's laid to rest next to his long-lost love, finally together again for all eternity. This is told through narration from the outsider, who congratulates Corvo on a successful mission and a good life. A satisfying conclusion to a satisfying story. Alright, I know what you want now.
Something's waiting for me, and I won't let them write my
Triple! Wombo combo! That ain't
Ah, fuck, that felt good. Now that the demons have been successfully purged from my body, let's take a look at how this game ends if you played it like a fucking moron. For starters, Samuel hates you, and says that you may be worse than the others. Because of that, he alerts the guards to your presence with a gunshot.
I don't like what you've become. No better than these traitors. That's why I'm gonna tell them you're coming.
Good. Let them come. The leaders of the conspiracy are all still alive and have actively turned on each other. Martin and Pendleton are actively fighting each other when you arrive, and you have the option to kill them if you like.
Corvo, I knew you would get here. Well, you're too late. I'm already dying without your help. A stray bullet. I'll never know whose. What could I offer you anyway? You want money? Well, I'm broke. Women, maybe? Everyone knows you were screwing the Empress. You like noble women. You should meet my cousin Celia.
Rushing into the lighthouse, you can see a trail of blood leading from Emily's room to the roof. Havelock has her in his grasp and is threatening to jump off the building with her. Get too close, let him talk too long, or just do a piss-poor job of trying to save Emily, and he'll jump with her in his arms. From here, the outsider delights in the chaos and destruction you've caused, and Dunwall is essentially abandoned to be overtaken by the plague, where soon there will be no more corpses for the rats to consume. Corvo escapes Dunwall by boat, leaving his ultimate fate a mystery. If you manage to save Emily, she is crowned Empress, but her reign is marked by turmoil and fear.
The others are all dead, aren't they? That's alright, because I was going to have them killed anyway. I am going to be Empress.
She isn't a very effective Empress, but she manages to hold everything together, despite it not really getting any better during the course of her reign. Time forgets Corvo, but Emily never does. These endings are dark, and a good conclusion to a high chaos playthrough. Not a happy one though, but that's to be expected when you become the Grim Reaper to anyone who gets in your way. Regardless of the ending you get, the outsider is happy to have been a part of it all, as sooner or later, everything falls to the void. Alright, let's really confuse the people that jumped in the timestamp to avoid spoilers. I don't malign them for not wanting to have a game spoiled for them, especially not one that I personally may have piqued their interest on, but damn do I love gaslighting people for the sake of a joke. Yep, you heard that right. Corvo was tricked the whole time and was working for the whales in an effort to thin the human population to stop the slaughter of their people. Bet you didn't see that coming, did ya? And there you have it. Everything that I described and showed is just one way to play this stellar game. Even among the variations that come with the different levels of chaos, there are always hidden caches, secret routes, and new environments to see. When I played through the game a second time to get the high chaos ending, I saw parts of the maps that I'd never seen before. I didn't even mention several possible side quests and character interactions that occur throughout the course of a playthrough, so if you watch the spoilers and still want to play the game for the first time, you still got some surprises coming your way. While it was satisfying to move through the levels like a ghost, it was also satisfying to butcher my way through the poor citizens of Dunwall. I will say though, that having played the game a couple times killing no to very few people, I did feel bad for every person I sunk my blade into or shot repeatedly. That right there is the mark of a good game. Something that makes you feel the weight of your actions. Now, don't get me wrong, I love RPGs. Mass Effect is probably my favorite game series of all time, but I never really feel bad for all the mercs I splatter into the ground in those games. In fact, I've played those games Renegade far more times than I've played them Paragon. Good guy or asshole who is also good, but an asshole. Commander Shepard will gun down countless mercs throughout the course of one of the 3 mainline games. Corvo, on the other hand, has the option of not killing a single soul, making the impact of every person you kill that much heavier. RPGs somewhat limit the weight of actions to narrative decisions that you make through dialogue options. It works, but when a game makes me genuinely feel bad for every enemy I decapitate, I think it's greatly more effective. The fact that the good ending and the bad ending are tied to the number of people you slaughter is really meant to emphasize that fact. One thing I'll say is that I was surprised at how challenging this game is by playing like a maniac. I expected to go in and decimate hordes of guards with my superior combat abilities, and boy was I bent over like your mother on any given night. Non-lethal poses its own challenges with having to hide bodies and choking someone into brain-damaging unconsciousness, leaving you open to being spotted, but when guards gang up on you, you realize that these guys aren't mindless cannon fodder and are trained in taking out combatants. It doesn't help that I deliberately tried to take out guards and fought them tooth and nail when they surrounded me, but that's beside the point. The game is challenging, but you can make it significantly more challenging by the way you decide to play, and Dishonored is a game that will treat you with the maturity of your actions having consequences. I would also like to say that while Dishonored does emphasize player choice, there is a canon ending to the game. The fact that there's a sequel somewhat necessitates this, but I don't think it in any way takes away from the gameplay or narrative. This does, however, further prove my assertion that non-lethal is the objectively better choice, as low chaos is the canon ending. This isn't Metro 2033. Checkmate, atheists. On top of the main narrative, there's a slew of DLC that was released for Dishonored that furthers the story of side characters and fleshes out the world more. I debated on going over them in this video, but they honestly deserve their own video going over all of them. From what I've played so far, they're pretty quality, and I like that Arcane didn't feel the need to ham-fist new narrative into the already completed story of the main campaign, but still wanted to flesh out their world building. That about wraps it up. I hope you liked the video, and I'm curious to know what everyone's take on this game is. You could say I'm engagement baiting here, but I genuinely love discussing and debating video games and what makes them good. Give this video a like if you liked it, and if you didn't and somehow made it this far into the video, you're a crazy masochist. But I appreciate ya. Jokes aside, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
What the dog doing?